You've probably heard of this famous productivity rule that promises to unlock your best work. It's called Eat That Frog. But what if I told you that for a huge number of us, this so-called key to success is actually a recipe for burnout and frustration? Well, today we're going to figure out exactly why this advice so often fails, and more importantly, how you can actually make it work for you.
We've all heard some version of this, right? Early to bed, early to rise. The whole idea is pretty simple. Conquer your hardest, ugliest, most dreaded task first thing in the morning. Get that frog out of the way, and the theory is the rest of your day is going to feel like a cakewalk. Okay, but that brings up a really big question. If this advice is so foolproof, why does it only seem to work for about a quarter of the population? Why do so many of us try it, fail, and then end up feeling super guilty and unproductive just because we can't tackle some monster project at 7 in the morning?
So let's dive right into that paradox. What if the problem isn't the advice itself, but the rigid, one-size-fits-all way we've been trying to force it on ourselves? To really get this, we need to look at the hidden biological code that's running the show, the one that dictates our daily energy and focus. And the answer, believe it or not, isn't about having more willpower. Nope. It's about understanding your personal biological clock, or what scientists call your chronotype. Basically, your chronotype is just a fancy word for what makes you a morning person or a night person. And here's the kicker. It's not a preference, it's literally hardwired into your genetics. It influences everything, from when you feel tired to when your brain is at its absolute sharpest. So the most basic way to think about this is breaking people into two groups. You've got your morning larks, who are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at dawn, and your night owls, who really come alive later in the day. Now, our whole 9-to-5 society is pretty much built for the larks, which often leaves the owls feeling totally out of sync. But it gets even more interesting than that. A newer model actually breaks us down into 4 distinct types. First, you've got the lions. They're your classic early bird go-getters. Then there are the bears, who kind of follow the sun and fit pretty well into that typical 9-to-5 rhythm. You've also got the wolves, the classic creatives who really hit their stride late at night. And finally, you have dolphins. They're the light, often irregular sleepers whose energy can come in these unpredictable spurts. And when you look at how this breaks down across the population, the problem just jumps right out at you. About half of us are bears, which makes sense with the typical workday. But the true morning people, the lions, they only make up about 25% of us. And a full 25% are night-oriented wolves. So what does that mean? It means for at least a quarter of us, first thing in the morning is the absolute worst time to try and be productive. Okay, so now let's bring all this biology talk back to that famous piece of advice. Eat that frog. And the idea, which Brian Tracy made super popular, is actually really simple and powerful. If you do the hardest thing first, you get it over with, you get this amazing sense of accomplishment, and you build momentum that just carries you through the rest of the day. And it's built on really solid psychology, It takes advantage of your willpower when it's at its strongest. And it stops that nagging anxiety you feel. That's called the Zeigarnik effect, when you have some big, unfinished task just hanging over your head all day. Plus, you get that awesome dopamine hit of accomplishment right at the start. But, and this is a big but, when it's misapplied, when you try to eat a frog when your brain is basically still asleep, this powerful tool can totally backfire. As this Reddit user just perfectly nails it, it can lead to complete and total paralysis. So what's the solution here? The answer is not to just throw this whole method out the window. It's about adapting it to your own biology. So how do we do that? Well, let's walk through 7 golden rules to make eating the frog actually work for you. Okay, rule number 1. This is the single most important fix. We have to redefine what first thing means. It doesn't mean 6 a.m. It means the first task you do during your personal peak productivity window. So if you're a wolf, your first thing might actually be at 8 p.m. That's when you should eat your frog. And this isn't just a feeling. Research shows working at your optimal time can boost your cognitive performance by almost 30%. That's huge. All right, rule number 2 is a really cool and kind of counterintuitive one. While we're best at focused analytical work during our peak hours, it turns out we're often better at creative, brainstorming type problems during our off-peak times. It's like when you're a little groggy, your brain's filter is down, and it makes these amazing, unexpected, creative connections. So you gotta match the type of frog to the right time of day. Where you work matters a lot. Rule number 3 is about creating a peak environment. The idea is to have one dedicated space just for that deep frog-eating work. And check this out. A study found that just having your phone on your desk, even face down and on silent, reduces your available brain power. Just moving it to another room can boost your performance by 10%. Wild, right?
Rule number 4 is so important. You have to pick the right frog. Not every hard task qualifies. Don't waste your best brain power on something that's just urgent but not truly important. Your real frog is that high-impact task that moves your biggest goals forward. Think of the 80-20 rule. What's the 20% of your work that's going to deliver 80% of the results? That's your frog.
Okay, rule 5. This is huge. Vague goals are where productivity goes to die. If your frog is right thesis, you're just going to stare at it. The key is to break that monster frog down into tiny tadpoles. So instead of work on research, your plan is analyze transcripts for participants 5 through 8. And get this, research shows that making a specific plan the night before can literally double your chances of actually doing it. Let's be honest, the hardest part is just getting started. That's where Rule 6 comes in, a warm-up ritual. It puts the whole process on autopilot. It's like building a runway for your brain. By doing the same few small things every single time, like you make your coffee, you open a specific document, you create this chain reaction that leads you right into the main task, without having to burn through a ton of willpower just to get going. And finally, rule number 7, to make this whole thing stick, you gotta reward yourself. Seriously, our brains are wired to seek rewards. So by creating a simple system where finishing your frog leads to something you genuinely enjoy, you're basically training your brain to associate hard work with a positive outcome. And that makes it so much easier to do it again the next day. So, what does all this mean for you? It means you can stop fighting your own biology. You can stop feeling guilty. Instead, you can start designing a system that is perfectly tailored to how you actually work best. So the real takeaway here is this. Productivity isn't about forcing yourself into some generic system you read about. It's about understanding your own biology, your chronotype, your unique work style, and then adapting a powerful method like Eat That Frog to fit you. Because at the end of the day, a smart system designed for you will always, always beat raw willpower. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What's that one frog you're going to tackle? And more importantly, based on your own biology, when is the absolute best time for you to do it? Thanks for tuning in.